So Ian Garry was found, or he filmed himself make fun of Strickland, and he was watching the highlights of the last of Dricus versus Sean Strickland, making fun of it, saying that these guys look sloppy, and if he ever looked like that he should retire, and he was just laughing, and this was his revenge, right? It's kind of weird how the sport has kind of devolved into this kind of like making fun of people for stuff, right? If someone loses a fight, it's almost as I'll make fun of him like he's a loser, or getting a lot of personal stuff involved, and obviously his situation is very unique, right? A lot of people were trying to tell Ian about like, hey, that your wife is most likely using you. She wrote a book on how to basically manipulate these, attract these guys and then manipulate them for your own gain. A lot of people were trying to say, hey, you got to get out of there. And this whole situation is very soy like. Literally, he's eating soy, and, everything going on with the wife and the wife's husband possibly being around, and all this stuff happening. It's really a bizarre situation for sure. But I will say, like, if he really wanted to trigger people, he should have went after Canada in general, because Canada won. Like, I think they lost all of their fights on that card. All of their guys lost, and their like MVP guy, I think, what was his name, Mallet. He he had the worst loss you can think of. It would have been better if he had gotten head kick KO'd by Neil Magny in the first round. It would have been better. But for him to go out there and then dominate, and then I remember I was sitting there in the third round, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I don't think he's gonna finish Neil Magny, so he's gonna lose in that way. But at the same time, like he's gonna win this fight. Um, and then Neil Magny, all of a sudden, he just decided to go like turn on killer mode, right? I mean, he gets on top from a bad takedown, and then is able to and then is able to ground and pound him out. Like, the guy didn't know what to do. It was so bizarre. But yeah, I mean, Ian Garry should have been making fun of, make fun of Mallet, make fun of the Canadians. They lost all of their fights. After Mallet lost, the whole crowd was like awkwardly silent. It was awkwardly silent. He should have made fun of all the Canadians, and obviously Sean Strickland was like some sort of weird uncrowned Canadian, fighter, basically, because I guess he was talking about all the political situations going on there. The people really vibe well with it, which was, great for Sean. Like, that would have sucked for him if they were like, hey, we support the opposing side on this whole thing, but they were all in favor of him. He had a lot of fans on his side when he walked out. I will say the fight was pretty sloppy. Ian is definitely speaking the truth on the sloppiness of it. It was a weird, Dricus is not like he's not a clean martial artist. He's got some weird style, or he'll fight out of both styles, and he's got kind of a weird, kind of basic looking guard, and then he'll run at you with a bunch of punches, which usually a lot of guys would, like martial art guys, especially karate guys, would definitely counter that. But he hasn't fought any guys like that. Um, just a real bizarre. I could see a casual fan easily saying, "Hey, these guys don't look too good," just because they both have awkward styles. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, are these guys even any good? I mean, Brock Lesnar, for instance, like had like one amateur fight, went into the UFC, and then beat a bunch of guys. And it's like, was he even good? It's like he had no background in really anything other than wrestling, and so it was like wrestling and athleticism essentially got him the belt, over all these trained fighters, guys with massive, like, 5, 10 fights, 15 fights. He beat a previous champion. It was just so bizarre, right? I mean, sometimes you have to question, like, are these guys really that good? And then you're like, well, he beat this guy, but it's like MMA math doesn't really work like that, right? So it's, I don't know. Like, Ian Garry, he's basically saying he wants to fight Sean Strickland. Can he go in there? Like, he was right. He said that the fight is now possible. He can move down, no, actually move up, and he could actually get that fight because, well, Strickland's worth is down now. He's no longer the champion. He's not so far away from Ian. If Ian wanted to call him out and fight him and then move up, that could definitely happen. I think Ian's, his kickboxing is definitely pretty clean. That's the difference here. That's what he was saying when he was calling those guys sloppy. Dricus is definitely sloppy. Some people will say he's just awkward or whatever. But definitely you could easily say it's sloppiness. Even Strickland has weird punches. The way he throws a lot of arm punches, and then when he throws these hooks, they're kind of like those Mexican boxing hooks where it's not really like coming over the side. It's like almost like a karate chop coming down. So it's a real awkward punch. The way he throws teep kicks, his stance, all of it is just very like, it's not what you'd see when you enter a typical martial arts gym or dojo or whatever. So I could clearly see him saying stuff like that. But you know, could Garry actually beat either one of these guys? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, the bigger these guys get, the more it's like in their favor to be awkward because it's like, they have more power. So they could just like, yeah, they could be all weird. You don't know how to treat him because he's got this weird stance. And next thing you know, he's throwing these bombs on you that you don't really know how to react to because we're only used to like, oh, you're used to a jab, you're used to a straight punch, you're used to left hook, right hook, uppercuts. But what if some guy throws you a punch that's like, it's not down the line like it typically is. It's like in some weird, funny angle and stuff. Now all of a sudden you're in defense mode because you're not comfortable with getting attacked like that. So, I mean, it would be interesting. I think we all want to see Ian Garry fight Sean Strickland. That's definitely a fight that the real fans want to see. Will it happen? I mean, it depends on if Ian can win his next fight. If he can win his next fight, then he could get himself into the whole this whole weird circle that's being created, where we have like Sean Strickland, we have Izzy Adesanya, you have Dricus, we have Alex Pereira in there. And then you also have Cosma trying to like jump in through the window, basically watching the situation. And then inside that group, you also have Ian Garry off in the other corner trying to get involved in this little kind of circle, which is being created. Which, if you're a middleweight and you're not involved in that circle, you're basically kind of screwed. If you're Vittori, if you're Cannonier, if you're any of these other guys, you're kind of like Paulo Costa, you're kind of just done because you need to get involved in the drama in order to then be involved in these kinds of, I don't know, personal fights that are trying to be created, I guess. It would be a fun fight. I think we all want to see Ian Garry versus Strickland. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, I think Garry would probably get dominated in that fight just because Strickland's defense is so good and he's just so good at picking you apart. The problem is if they fought in a third round fight, like 3 rounds, that's going to favor Garry because Garry, he's used to 3-round fights and Strickland takes a while to kind of warm up. So he needs more time in order to kind of get the guy tired and then start throwing combinations against him when he's up against the fence. That's where Strickland is at his best. He needs you on the back foot, preferably against a fence, and then he'll start teeing off, throwing combinations on you, and that's when he finishes you, basically. Could he do that to Garry in a 3-round fight? I just don't think he has enough time. I mean, I'm assuming Garry might go in there and he may burn himself out just because of the amount of anger and stuff. If that doesn't happen, though, Garry has a good chance of actually winning that in a 3-round. If it's in a 5 rounds, if it's going to be, because if Garry wins his next fight, he's going to be up there. And so now he might be, okay, now we could give him possibly, he could be at the fight night or he could be in these 5-rounders now, which would then favor Strickland. I don't think anyone would say that Ian Garry's going to beat Sean Strickland in a 5-round fight. I don't think there's anyone out there. I mean, could he land something on him? He could. Maybe he lands an Alex Pereira hook or something, maybe, or a head kick, maybe. But for the most part, Sean Strickland on paper would beat Garry more times than he would beat him, and if they fought 10 times, that's for sure. I mean, same thing with Dricus. I mean, Dricus would definitely out-grapple him and then dominate him. There's no chance of Garry being Dricus or or really anyone else, honestly. There's kind of a chance with Strickland just because Strickland doesn't have power and he kind of fights autistically. But yeah, he wouldn't beat anyone else up in middleweight. I definitely think he should just stick to welterweight. If he sticks to welterweight, and I think we all think he has a chance to take out Leon. Leon kind of has a lot of holes, and there's a lot. Welterweight division is kind of just in shambles right now. I don't think Leon is really a strong champion. I mean, Colby looked like absolute trash. If Colby was at his best, like the guy we see on the highlights, he totally would have beat Leon for sure. Not easily, of course, because Leon looks like this is the best version of him that's out there. But still, the best version of him is still not like, on the GOAT list or anything like that. So, there's a lot going on with that whole situation. I think we all want to see Ian Garry versus Sean Strickland. If you guys want to write in the comments and say, like, who do you think would win that fight? How do you think that fight would go down? That would be pretty fun. But until then, I'll see you guys on the next one.